prayer. There was something I was thinking about this morning. For those of you who haven't been here, this is your first time having any participation in this particular class. It's pretty casual, so we try to be pretty casual and just have a conversation with each other. And but this morning I was thinking about, praying about some things and the things of my life and where I'm at spiritually in my soul and in wrestling with different things that involve God, the kingdom, local church, that we experience here, and just how it all works together, and then combining that with the chaos that happens in the world on a continual basis. And as I begin to pray, I begin to kind of realize that I'm on a path, and as I was realizing this about myself and talking to God about this about myself, but I think it pertains to each and every one of us as individuals. I'm on my path that God has put me on. So my thoughts, my feelings, the way I relate to the world around me is going to be different than other people. It's not going to all look the same, be the same, and I have to be comfortable in knowing that God has me where He wants me, and that where He has me is in preparation for what's to come. So I think you get to a point, if you're not there yet, I think you get to a point to where you may not have a clear picture of your so-called purpose or destiny or that thing that God has called you for. But I think you can get to a point to where you know that there's something there. In other words, there's a lot of people, I think, that they just, they're still trying to find anything they can grab hold of to find some kind of solidity in their life, because everything seems so out of control. But I think you can, and thus is the reason for this class that we've been doing, is I think you can get to a point to where you know that everything around you may be out of control, but you're anchored right where you need to be. And we can find peace in that. And knowing that, yes, the storms are raging, life is raging, a lot of chaos in the world that I can't do anything about. But I know I can do something about where I stand, and I know that it is in preparation for what is to come, and when that day comes, then all I'm responsible for is what God has me do in that moment, whatever that may be, and wherever that may be, and to whom that may be, because we're all called to people, so it's going to look different for each and every one of us. So one thing to start off with tonight, we had a little bit of homework with our personality test. And I'm sure some of you have done it, some of you haven't. I've already got a little feedback from some people. There's actually one person in here that only 3% of the entire world are like those people. Was you another one? Jeez. So
is it the ISTG? Yeah.
It's the one that we had that we focused on is called 16 personalities. Yeah. Yes.
I watched your YouTube thing.
Exactly. There you go. 16 personalities.
And I love the one that said that I was 2% of the population of the world. And she agreed with it. She went through it. She said, you are.
Yeah, she's like, yep. What's that?
I got Defender.
Defender? There was another Defender in here. Back there, Leanne. Yeah.
A mediator.
It's kind of like
What's another
Avengers.
Defender?
A mediator.
Architect.
So,
Architect.
Architect.
I got Adventurer.
Adventurer.
She was not the architect.
How many, you're right. How many of you thought that your profiles were fairly accurate? Or learned anything from them?
Yep.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to take. Did your spouse or someone connected to you take it?
Yeah.
Did anybody get the same on both? Really?
I got the same on yours.
I did. I think you got the same.
She did.
No.
Did
I got same thing.
you and your dad did?
She took it for me, and she got the same thing for me that I got for me. Is that
Wow.
what I asked her?
You must know him. Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
That's,
Yep.
that's what I did with Leanne.
Yeah.
When I took my test, when I took it for her, we ended up with the same, I got, yeah.
There were like a little bit of variations of the specifics.
Yeah. But pretty close to the same. Yeah. Was anybody surprised or
No, it actually
Was
was
she
my
good?
sense.
I was surprised when I actually, like, I went through the test and I've done this test before.
Uh-huh.
I'm a former psych major.
Uh-huh.
So Myers-Briggs personality is
Yeah.
what it is.
Okay.
The one at the end, that was
Yeah.
the A or T.
Yeah.
That was-
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I actually changed, like, when the last time I took it.
Sure. Yeah.
It's changed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what I think a lot of us would find that after a few years of life, you know, you start changing. Because I know I'm definitely a lot different than I was 20 years ago. For sure. Just my approach to life, the way I think about life, period. Many aspects have changed as far as that goes. So, which is a good thing. You're always changing.
I didn't take it either.
Yeah.
I was thinking if not years, at least different people in your life. That can change a lot of things.
Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, and things happen to you. People will come in your life. People come out of your life. People hurt your feelings. People do things that blow your mind, and it gives you a totally different perspective on life. So one thing I found, I like hanging out with police officers, and one thing that I do know is police officers definitely have a different view of life than the average, just regular person. I talked to one state trooper, and this is something I never even thought about. I mean, if I see a woman by herself or a girl by herself, like in a dark area of the city, walking the streets by herself, right? You're like, okay, that's a potential dangerous situation, okay? But he told me one time, he said, you know, if a woman's just jogging, like by herself out in the country somewhere or something, like something I wouldn't even think of, like no big deal. But through everything he's seen in his years on the police force, he said he drives by that and thinks, you are stupid.
Right.
Because he's seen it. He's seen some horrible things. So life does that to us. And so that goes into also what we've talked about. Remember all those different circumstances, situations that kind of converge to make us who we are. And God, and that's the thing about God, is He has us on a path. And sometimes our own mistakes, even, He'll use them for our good. He'll use things that people did against us that He didn't intend, was not part of His will, but they happened. He'll even use that and somehow, some way, still guide us into that perfect plan that He has for our life. So it's an amazing thing. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about a topic called Resurrect the 9 to 5 Window. Okay? Resurrect the 9 to 5 window. And something I want to read to you here, a couple sentences. You have a window of opportunity that is your view. Only yours. It is your everyday 9 to 5 opportunity to bring life to your routine. Okay? So, a couple things we want to describe here, if we can kind of paint a visual picture for you. You know, the 9 to 5 window. I got this thought, I felt like God kind of gave me this thought. It's nothing extravagant. I'm sure many people have thought of it before. But I was sitting at the kitchen table and writing, and in front of me was a window. And I began to think about I was pondering our everyday life, like the jobs we're in, the things we do day in, day out, you know, and how sometimes people really struggle with their jobs. Why am I here? Am I going anywhere? I wish I could get out of here. I wish I could find a different job. And some people love their jobs. Some people look at their job as just a means to pay the bills. And granted, so we're making some statements here that are not going to be, again, remember, they're not identical to every situation. They're not the same for everybody. Look, there are people in his place that God would probably help you find a different job because you're right, the job you're in might not be fit for you. However, there's probably some people in here that are bordering on not being able to stay in their job or see their job as just an ability to get a paycheck and pay the bills, but God actually has you there for a purpose, but you just haven't embraced it yet.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay? So there's all kinds of scenarios, and each one's different for each person. So that's what we're going to get into tonight a little bit, talking about resurrecting the 9 to 5 window. To resurrect something means it's dead, right? 9 to 5, I'm talking about your everyday routine, your everyday job, your everyday thing that you do, kind of that routine that you got. Resurrecting the 9 to 5 window. What's the window? Look at it like this. Every day we have a window that's ours. It's an opportunity that only belongs to us. No one else can see through our window. It is yours. It's only yours. You can't get rid of it. You can't do away with it. You can't give it away because it is yours. And so if I'm looking out that window right there, and I'm at a distance from that window, and that window represents my everyday routine, but I choose to disengage from it. I want distance between, because I don't like it, I don't want it, I wish I could do something different. I just go put my time in, get my paycheck, and then when I'm done, I can go do ministry after that. I went through many years, especially when I was younger, of this idea of full-time ministry and what that was supposed to be. And I had this idea of what that looked like, and I had to make it happen. So what that meant is I had to figure out a way to get people to pay me so I could work in a church. That was my idea of full-time ministry. Or be able to speak to enough people and get popular enough so people would invite me everywhere so I could travel around and then they would pay me to speak to them for a couple nights a week. That was my idea of full-time ministry. So I went through a lot of ups and downs and valleys and mountains in the process, if you will, that God molded me and shaped me and took me through. And there were times He didn't allow me to climb too high, and then there were times that He didn't allow me to go too low. But He kind of used everything to kind of balance out my life and to say, look, if you would settle down, here's where I want you. It wasn't always where I wanted to be. It's kind of like Joseph. When Joseph was in prison, he didn't want to be there. But he needed to be there. Because he was positioned. If he wasn't in that position, he wouldn't be able to fulfill the calling that was on his life. He was positioned in the right place. So that's the 9 to 5. So I'm distanced. I'm pulling away from it. Now, it's obvious because we can all see and imagine. If we are at a distance from our view of the world, we have a very limited view. We can only see a short little picture. Like there was a car that just drove by. That quick, it was gone. That's all I can see. Because it's such a limited view out that window. And again, a lot of times what we do is we take our everyday routine and we're so disengaged because it's not exactly what we want or exactly what we think it should be, that we disengage and we have a very limited view of the opportunities that come by us every single day. And sometimes because we're so disengaged, they're like that car that just drove by. They go by so fast we just saw lights and that was it. We didn't even realize there was an opportunity there. Because daggone it, we don't even want to be here doing this anyway. I want to go do something great for God. And God's saying, right? But what happens is, if I choose to engage the window, for distance sake, I won't go all the way over there, but you can imagine, the closer I get to the window, the more broad my view becomes. So the more I engage my everyday routine, the more broad my view becomes of the opportunities that God has right in front of me every single day. And then, if I get so close, my nose is to the window, I can see to the right, and to the left, and the entire world opens up in front of me. Everything that's in front of that window opens up to me. And now, not only if I was over here at this window particularly, I wouldn't see a flash of lights drive by, but I would be able to see the vehicle from way over here in an area that I can't see right now and watch it travel 67. Because I've engaged the picture in front of me. So, the point to drive home, you probably already figured it out, but it's simply learning how to engage our routine in such a way that we see God in it. And if you try that and you just can't see God, you just can't work it out, it just isn't fitting you, well, then you have a choice to make. You need to take it before the Lord, and you need to say, God, if I'm supposed to be doing this, show me. Please help me open something up for me so I can engage this opportunity. If it's not you, then help me to discipline myself in such a way to do what it takes to prepare myself for a different opportunity that you may have for me. Because again, remember, John Wooden said, when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. But if you're ready, you'll be ready for the next step. Again, it's one reason why I began taking classes myself online, college classes, because by the time I'm 50 years old, I want opportunity. So I realized that I have to start working now on something that will give me more opportunity years down the road. So, but I have to engage that now. Because when I'm 50, if I haven't done it, the only opportunity I'm going to have is the same old opportunities I have right now. Right? So, let me read this. This will kind of repeat some of what I said, but I highlighted it, so I want to read it. I figured there must have been a reason I highlighted it. So as long as you keep a distance from the window, you feel very limited in your ability to have influence or an impact through your job. However, what begins to happen if you engage the window and connect your emotions, passion, abilities, and talents to the 9 to 5, you find that you have a much broader view of the world around you. So things begin to open up. It's not as limited as what you thought it was. Listen, in my life I've had, again, the things that I'm talking to you about tonight are not things that I haven't had to put into practice myself. Again, my worldview in my 23 years of doing what we call ministry has totally changed from what it was when I started. Because I went through so many things that God has processed me through. And because there have been times in my life, even recently, when it hasn't exactly looked like what I wanted it to, or what I would prefer, I've had to learn to do spiritual, mental exercises, if you will, to engage the day through the power of God. Because it's by His help. That's what His Spirit is in our life. It is a help. It gives us power. It gives us insight. It gives us truth. Not only truth about Scripture, but truth about you. Truth about your day. Truth about who you are. Okay? So there's days I have to engage. I have to pray. I have to seek God and just go through a simple process at times. God, help me today as I'm cutting hair. As I have a customer in my seat, don't allow me to miss any opportunity to speak into someone's life that may need it that moment. Give me discernment. Give me insight. Because as customers come in and out, some of it's just customers. Some of it's just daily stuff. Some of it's just routine. But every once in a while, there's a connection. And I know it's something more. I know there's something deeper. And now I have customers that have kind of become friends, and we'll sit around and chit-chat and talk about life and circumstances, and there's great opportunity there. Great opportunity to minister But I don't always feel like doing that. That's why it takes God. I guarantee you, in your daily life, there's things you do you don't always feel like doing, or you wish you wouldn't do anymore, or you wish God would have you doing something else. Right? Yeah.
About the whole roof thing, I work in the shipping department, so we got truck drivers coming in and out.
Oh, yeah.
There's one truck driver in particular that,
Yeah.
We always do that about truck drivers.
everything he does, we discuss them.
Yeah.
So that's like, we have church right
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you find those connections. You find those connections. It's pretty cool. There are people that I'm connected to back in my little area of the world that aren't believers necessarily. Like they might believe a little, but they're not Christians. They're not practicing. They're not. But we engage in tremendous conversations, and they know how I feel about God, and they know that I have faith in God, and it does come up, and they honor that, and we'll talk about that. And so what I'm doing, what I know that I'm doing in that process is beyond me and beyond them. It's God setting them up. It has nothing to do with me and everything to do with God. That's another aspect, and granted, I don't have it perfected yet, but something that I'm so thankful that God's helped me do is get beyond me. Because it was about me when I didn't think it was about me. And I think if we just present ourselves before God, He will gradually and methodically chip away those things that we need out of our life, if we'll just let Him. Because I began to realize that there were times when it was all in the name of God and for the kingdom, but it had some roots in selfishness that I didn't even really know. But through God's chipping away, and again, He's still continuing to chip, but I've come to this point where I enjoy like speaking and teaching now more because it's about the message and not the messenger. And that's something that I would always have told you, because that's something that I did feel, because it hadn't yet been revealed, the other hidden aspects. God had to reveal those to me. You understand what I'm saying? They were hidden to me, but through exposing myself to God and allowing Him to take me through a process, keep coming back for more, He's revealed some of those inner things, and it's helped my walk. It's helped me mature, and it's given me a lot more peace, because when it's not about you, you don't have to care so much about you. What did they think of me? How did I look? Do they like me? How many Facebook likes did I get? How many followers do I have? Hillary Clinton has over 1 million. Surely I can get close to that. But it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about Him. And so when we allow Him, again, going back to that 9 to 5 window, when we say, God, I choose to engage the life You have given me. You have given me this life. You have given me these gifts. You have given me this breath. It's one thing we try to just constantly get into my boys as they're growing up, because some of them are very, like their talents are exposed right now. Like their giftings, their abilities, and it's different for each one. But sometimes they so haphazardly look at it and handle it real playfully, They haven't found the preciousness of it yet,
That's what kids do.
It's what they do, right? And so as their parent, we're constantly telling them, embrace that. Because it is God's gift. He gave it to you. It is precious. It is yours. And our lives are that way. Our lives are like that. They're precious. They're given by God. And He wants to do great things with it. But He has made us the stewards, if you will, of these bodies, of these minds, of these beings, if you will. You are the steward of you. What do you do with that? When God says, I have given this to you, what will you do with it? Right? It's a different way to view things. Rather than all the time just thinking about things that are happening to us, we learn to embrace and own what's happening in us, through us, and around us. Now, greater, Scripture says, look, I'm not some naive person. Life is tough sometimes. Life is very tough sometimes. But He says, in this life, you will have trouble. You will have trouble. He also said this is something great we can look forward to. Don't worry about them hating you, because they're going to hate you. They're going to hate you. Some people, that's why you can't just base it on people. Some people are going to hate you. They're going to just be like, man, I don't know what it is about you, but I just don't like you. And you didn't do nothing. You didn't do nothing.
It's alive.
It's just because you're there, right? It's just the way it is. Always be you. Always be you. So, this is probably a bad example because it was a politician that told me this. But yeah, right. So you already turned me off. But now this guy, he's a good guy, and I like him. But Luke Messler, if you know who he is, he was congressman. When he was running in 2012, we were talking about campaigning and stuff, and just government, and how to campaign and run for an office. Because I was running that same year too, and he basically just said, look, you just have to be who you are, say what you mean, and let it be. Just always be that. Whether people like it or don't like it, let it be. Because if you keep trying to change yourself for everything, change yourself for the environment around you, change who you are for this, that, and the other, you get lost where you're at. You don't even know where your own tracks are, So just be who you are. Just be who you are. And be happy with the way God made you. And always be looking to better who you are. To craft who you are. But never leave who you are. Let Him shape you. Let Him mold you. Let Him chip things away from you. But always be you. Always be you. So something else I highlighted to touch on tonight is attitude. It's kind of a cliche saying. John Maxwell says it all the time. But attitude determines altitude. How high can you climb that mountain? How much influence can you have? How much success can you have in your calling? A lot of it has to do with your attitude about the calling. Again, going back to engaging the window. If my attitude is on a daily basis, I don't care, I don't want to, I'm just going to collect the check. You're not going to climb very high. Because you can't. Because everybody sees it on you. You end up not liking yourself. You don't like your life. You just... Exactly.
Stay away from that.
Exactly. He said you hate everybody. Bad attitudes stink. Stink. We all get them from time to time. We all get them from time to time. But we have to learn how to get out of them. We have to learn to reinforce our spirit and our soul with, I'll use the term, positive reinforcement. There's all kinds of word that God has given us to encourage ourselves with. David at times had to encourage himself to get up and go on and fight the battle. We see constant examples throughout Scripture that are given to us, and even throughout our history that's recorded, where people have been down, they've been out, they've had bad attitudes, and they said, you know what? I can either die here or I can die trying. You know? It's like the classic philosopher 50 Cent said. Get rich or die trying. Yeah, some people know what I'm talking about. I don't know. Yeah, anyways. I picked that up in the candy store. Anyhow, but you know, it is what it is. It's like, who was it? I was trying to think. I forget the example I was thinking of that just kind of popped in my head and went away. But it's kind of like that car. It just went. But you know, when someone, I have heard of this when people have been so sick in their body to death, cancer, brain tumors, just kidney diseases. They just get to this place where they think they either give up or they say, you know what? If I give up, I die, I might as well just keep trying. And some people have been healed. Some people have made it. And others haven't. But again, it's like I said before, you'll never score any points unless you shoot the shot. You'll never hit the ball unless you get into the batting box. You gotta try. You gotta try. Alright, so let's move on. So you gotta have this attitude that I am going to keep trying. I had my son tell me, this was a few years ago, it's Carter, a couple of years ago, he might have been 14 or so. He talked about people who are successful. He was talking about a specific genre, if you will, but people that are successful. He said, you know what? He said, here's the thing. He said, everybody can make it. He said, it's just that people give up before they do. It was like, it's interesting. Yeah. But everybody can make it. Everybody can have success. It's just not everybody does because they give up before they do it. He said, but if you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, he said, one day, finally, something's going to happen. And I was like, what's that? Yeah, no. Oh yeah, I did. One of my boys did say that to his doctor, and his doctor chuckled. And then he wrote on his little thing, good luck being a YouTuber. It's like, so, here's something that I've learned. I could not, remember I was sharing my stories about myself. I could not control my life and surrender it to God at the same time. Amen. I think a lot of times we dance that dance so many times. Try to control our life and surrender to God. It doesn't work. We end up in this tug of war of frustration. I had to learn to let go. Again, and it's a constant thing. It's not like you do it and then like everything's gravy. You constantly have to learn to just let go. I had to come to the point to where my aspirations didn't matter anymore, because as long as God was happy, as long as I was doing what I knew to do, I couldn't climb any stairs that weren't in front of me. You know what I mean? It's like I just wanted to, like I knew there was some kind of staircase somewhere where I could climb to the top. And I was searching for this. God had always stripped the stairs. But then, once He began to place things, the most success I've had in my life, the times that have been successful for me and given me another step up, have been the times when I just said, I give up. And all of a sudden, an email, a phone call, an opportunity, bam.
Right.
And all I had to do was give up.
Yeah.
But everything I've tried to do on my own, I've struggled with, has frustrated me, has brought me stress. And so I'm continually learning to give up. I've got to focus on the things God has in front of me. That's all I have to worry about. And I've been at peace with that. There are things I would like to do. There are aspirations I do have. Like I said, taking the college courses is a step for me personally, just to position myself in case there would be an opportunity down the road. I have my part to play. You have your part to play, so don't get that part wrong. You definitely have your seed to sow, right? You can't just chant over the garden, grow, grow, grow. You got to get in the garden and pull the weeds out, right? You got to work it. But work in the garden that God gave you. That's where you're going to have the most success. I tell you what, I don't even know what time it is. Let me see where I'm at here. Okay. Let's finish this section. I'll go ahead and finish this section. And we won't start the next one until next week. Okay. So to kind of sum up tonight, and then we'll open up for comments and stuff too, because we can help each other out. Here's one thing that I can tell you that I found to be true. It seems to never fail. You'll always end up in the direction that you're headed. I know that's real deep. It's deep. It took me years of contemplation, but you'll always end up in the direction that you're headed. There are some people that boggle your mind because they make the same choices all the time, and they're ended up in the same positions all the time.
Right.
You're like, dude, don't you see you have to turn this way? Like, you're headed that way. Like, you're going into the wall. It's going to happen, right? Huh? Yeah, right? I mean, it's like, hello. So it's true about all of us. Think about the path you're on, the direction you're headed. As far as you can see, is that really the direction you want? Is that really the direction God has you in? Is every step you're taking a closer step to who you are as a person, as a created person for the kingdom? Or are you dancing about taking steps in various directions that really don't add to who you are as a person? They really don't add to what God is wanting out of you or what you're doing in life. You see, there's a lot of things that aren't necessarily wrong or what we would call as Christians sin, but they are choices and decisions that we engage in and that we make on a continual basis that weigh us down and burden us so that we are not free to experience all of God's peace and see clearly all of God's direction. Those are the things that I think eat us up the most, because our sin is very plain. We know if we're doing something sinful. But it's those weighty things, it's those burdensome things that sometimes actually can seem good and we can justify it. But is it really taking us in the direction that God wants us to go? Or is it taking away? Because what we have to understand that when you do one thing, you have to sacrifice another thing. If you spend your time here, that means you can't spend your time there. If you spend your money here, you can't spend your money there. If your focus is here, your focus can't be there. You see what I'm saying? So we're always exchanging. We're always taking and exchanging. All right? So in my life, again, one more quick example is recently, I've talked to some of you about it, but there were things in my life that through the past couple of years I began to engage in that were really, they were fun, they were connected to what I was doing, they were beneficial, they're important. I've been able to experience some really neat things because of different committees and people that I was involved with. But I came to this point, and I think I might have talked about this a little bit last week, but I came to a point where I had to set myself down. And this is just recently for me. So like, this is what I'm saying. This stuff that we're talking about, it's stuff I have to continually do myself. You know, it's not like I'm an expert and I just want everybody to know what I've conquered. It's continual. But I had to just really set myself down and think, okay, where am I at? What am I doing? Where am I going? What's important right now? Because there were some things that I seen that were very important, but I wasn't able to engage in fully like I felt like I needed to, like I felt like God wanted me to.
Right.
But to do that, I had to give up some stuff. And so I began to resign from committees. I began to do away with some other things. One of the things I wanted to do, I have some friends that do a podcast in Newcastle, and I was coming on to be one of the co-hosts. So I was on every week. We've had some really neat people on there from all around, and it was growing. They were getting more and more listeners, more and more. I mean, it was neat. It was fun. It was cool. But when I had to weigh this out, it had to go. Because it was neat and cool and fun and I think important and beneficial. And I could have kept doing it, but it had to go. Because there was something else I had to take care of that only I could take care of, because anybody could have sat in that seat and filled my spot. But there were some things only I could do. So like I said, that was something I wanted. That was about me. And I had to let it go. And I can tell you, I needed to. And I don't regret it at all. At all. So, again, that's just life. That's life. So what's important? What really matters? If you have kids, that's one of your that's priority number one. Exactly. Exactly. You're still raising them.
Even though sometimes someone
What's that?
I said, even though sometimes someone want to kill them.
Oh, yeah. We have to edit that part just in case something happens. No, I know. It does. It gets frustrating. Oh my gosh, my 5 boys. Mine go at it. And I'll tell, me and Beth joke, well, we kind of serious, but we say it jokingly so that we don't lose our mind. But we're like, what do we do wrong? You know? What do we do? These
Law
kids are nuts.
enforcement beats up.
Yeah, right. This is funny. This is funny. So my oldest is 18 now. So he he did something, you know, that we just didn't know about. Like we just wanted him to inform us, you know. It wasn't really a big deal. He made it. Oh, I know what it was. We were wanting to do devotions. Right? Well, all of a sudden, he's tired and needs to go to bed to get his sleep, right? So, you know, never mind the other nights when he's up till 2 in the morning. But he has to get his sleep for some reason. So he's in the bathroom in his underwear at the mirror doing his thing, you know. And my wife's standing in there like with this devotion book. And they're having this conversation about, you know, we need to have devotions. He's like, well, I'm 18 now. And, you know, we're like, oh yeah, well, you know. He's like, yeah, I don't have to live here. And I'm like, it was so funny that we didn't get mad. It was too funny. And I was like, yeah. I said, Bob, you're exactly right. I said, there is absolutely nothing stopping you from walking out this door right now and just going and And he said, and I said, but you don't have a car, you don't have a job, you don't have, you know, and he's like, well, I could do it if you guys would give me, you know, our favorite stuff. And I'm like, yeah, there you go. There you go. You know? It's like, oh my gosh. He's just spreading his wings, you know what I mean? So, one day,
Yeah, we'll get there.
I'll fly away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so funny. Yeah, right. Right. So, but it's fun. That's what I tell myself. So that keeps me going as I tell myself that it's fun. Yeah.
Was he still in his underwear when he made all those comments?
Yeah. No, he's sitting there in his underwear. I'm like, dude, you can just walk out right now. It's no big deal.
I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you what. It's funny. He probably won't see this, but he one time, it's been a couple years ago. I mean, he's at least 16. I know. But Beth actually pushed him out the door in his underwear, holding his clothes, because he would not get up. He would not get up. It's like, okay, buddy. So yeah, yeah.
He embraced that opportunity.
It's funny.
He embraced it.
He got ready. So it's funny. Beth sat on him before. Beth sat on him one time. Yeah, she sat on him one time. Anyways, yeah, it's been an adventure. It's been an adventure. So, anyways, creative design. Does anybody have any comments, questions, anything before we, or possibly this is our third week together. So, and maybe it's not there. Maybe you don't have it. But does anybody want to share something maybe that God showed you in the past 3 weeks, or maybe an experience, or something that maybe you had a moment that something clicked, and it's like, oh, that helps. I can see that. Okay, great. My time has not been wasted. Go ahead.
I've just been thinking a lot before this class started, and then you started this class, and the first night I was like, oh my gosh, about how the enemy will, like if you think of how the enemy has worked against you, I think if you can flip-flop that, it gives you some insight in what God wants to do with you. I don't know, maybe you put it in perspective.
Yes.
Like if you struggle with addiction, and maybe God wants to use you to help others with addiction. If you've had an orphan spirit, maybe God wants to use you to, mother and father people. Generation
Exactly.
is motherless and fatherless.
Very much so.
Things like that. So I think that can give you some insight into.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the kind of comment you're
Yeah,
looking for.
yeah.
And I love that.
Any comment? And you love that. That's right.
She just wanted that to be on invitation.
Just
I really-
wanted her to make sure she heard that.
I think that's awesome.
Um,
I would sit on my kids. Rather not.
Oh, it's been an But yeah, that's one thing that, like when I shared about when I had panic attacks, nervous breakdowns, things like that, what I realized after that experience and going through that experience, that there's actually a lot of people that have those times in their life, but they're embarrassed by it, or they're afraid to admit it, because it exposes a part of their life that's weak. And so God has helped me, like even, I mention it a lot of times when I do talks and stuff, and I let people know, look, this is me right now, but I went through this, and it wasn't fun, and it was embarrassing, and I didn't know what the future looked like, or what I was going to do with myself, So, yeah, I mean, you can use all these situations and circumstances, weaknesses and strengths, and the whole conglomerate mess called life. God can use all of it and somehow fashion it and form it to make this beautiful life of passion for the kingdom and passion for that call that He has for you specifically. And again, it's different for everybody. I watched this TED Talk the other day from someone that was an introvert. They loved being quiet and pulling away. And they began to talk about how our society, this is a whole different topic, but it's a great YouTube video. It's a TED Talk on YouTube, but she talks about how society today, it's like we want to push everybody to be extravagant, right? To be loud, to be boisterous, to be out there, to be, look at me, right? But then she begins to talk about being an introvert, trying to be what everyone else wanted her to be, and that the difficulty that was, and then the things that were missed by not just being who she was. Because extroverts are people, like, I'll say this real fast, but like in leadership positions, extroverts are the ones like Peter that just chop the Roman's ear off. You know, it's kind of like shoot first, ask later, right? The introvert is the one that sets back, ponders a little bit. They're able to quiet themselves and wrestle and to come up with solutions and think through the possible scenarios. And so the point is, it takes all of us. It takes all of us, right? So again, I get embrace the person God created you to be. Be that before God. Embrace it. Definitely don't look to the world to tell you who you are, and this society to tell you your worth, because it's very messed up.
That's right.
All right, let's pray. Father, thank you for this opportunity again. We appreciate you. Thank you for what you're doing in our lives. Talk to us, walk with us. Lord, as I pray, I see the scriptures in Genesis where you walked, your voice, your presence was with Adam and Eve in the garden. And they had that communion with you, that communication and that relationship that at that time was perfect and peaceful. So though we are now in the fall, Lord, you came and you died to redeem all things. And here we are before you as redeemed people, as people who say, God, forgive us of our sins, we want to serve you. Cleanse us and make us whole. I pray that we would experience the garden walk with you in our lives. God, that we would, every one of us, would learn to purposefully quiet ourselves, to purposefully choose to walk through your garden and to hear your voice, and not just to hear about us or all the stuff you want us to do or all the great things we can become, but just to be with you. Just to let you hold us, just to let you comfort us, just to feel your presence, just to feel your peace. Help us to learn to purposefully do that, to quiet ourselves, and to just be, embrace who you've made us to be. Look forward to our purpose. And again, as I close in prayer, Lord, I simply ask that through our time together, that at the very least, that the real main goal that I'm looking for, that I desire through these lessons myself, is that we would line up at the starting line and know the direction in which to run. In Jesus' name.